Folks, people, it's Dunlap here, and I ain't never seen Jackie this excited except for that time when we thought we were going to get to see Fred Thompson, but he blew us off.
Well, we got to see Fred Thompson's brother, but that was, that's all that could happen here. But this is the real deal. This ain't no relative on this episode. We got the real deal. He's here with us, and some of the people who listen to us who ain't from Tennessee, you may not understand all this, but this is important news to us Tennesseans.
If you are a child or were a child or know any children or have been around them or seen them from a distance, then you have been and in the Middle Tennessee area, or you know someone from the Middle Tennessee area, or you've been around somebody from the Middle Tennessee area, or seen someone from the Middle Tennessee area from a distance, and you have been touched by our guest today. This is Red State Update's first official podcast guest. We are about to, Jackie, are you okay?
I'm fine. Let's get to it. I'm just excited.
He's hopping up and down.
Well,
you got to go to the bathroom?
No, I'm ready to go. Just go on.
He's all wound up. Folks, we are about to talk to Stephen Good, and here's the sad part. Snowbird, but he's not Snowbird right now. That's a crime. That's a travesty.
He'll always be Snowbird in my heart and a lot of other people's hearts. So, WSMV, you can say whatever you want, but I know who Snowbird is, and that's who we're talking to right now.
And that's how we're going to try to get some of y'all to do everything you can to make sure that Stephen Good is Snowbird again. Stephen Good, are you on here with us?
I am certainly on here with you, and I appreciate both of you for inviting me on and being interested in what's going on here in Nashville.
Well, there's a lot of crazy things happening in the world right now, good or bad, whatever you want to look at it. I think it's bad, but this is just right on top of it, is insult to injury as far as I'm concerned. I
appreciate you saying so. I appreciate the kind words. It has certainly been an upheaval in my life and my family's life, and a very painful week for me. It was very surprising. It was not expected at all. I could never imagine not doing this job, and I could never imagine a situation where anyone at the station would think that it wasn't valuable enough to pay for, that it wasn't valuable enough to have on an ongoing basis with a consistent presence, presenting the character in a consistent way all the time.
For 25 years. It ain't like you just blundered into this. You were a temp. For 25 years, you have been Snowbird.
It's not quite 25. Some days it probably seemed like it, but I didn't quite hit the quarter century mark. Didn't quite get the silver anniversary.
No.
They wouldn't even let you have that.
Well, I wasn't the only one let go. There were several people that were let go. In my case, when they called me in and sat me down, they said my position was being eliminated. I was not being fired, and it wasn't for any unhappiness with my job performance. And believe me, I asked them repeatedly as my brain turned foggy hearing the news and trying to decipher what I was hearing. I kept asking, does this have anything to do with my job performance? And no, we're perfectly happy with your job performance. This is truly a budgetary decision, and we're no longer going to have any specific position with one person playing the character as you have for all these years. It's from now on, when the station decides to send the character out, it'll be people already in-house. It'll be an intern. It'll be someone in the sales department. Basically it'll be whoever can fit in the suit. And by the way, the suit and all the suits for the last 20-something years have been built to my measurements. So that eliminates a lot of people. You got to be 5'4" or thereabouts, and there's not a lot of wiggle room, again, since it was built for someone my size. So that eliminates a lot of people in the building, and that's probably a big sigh of relief for them, because it's not a glamorous job. If you saw me peel out of it, it is sweaty, it is smelly, it stinks, it is wet, it is soggy, and you wouldn't see me peel out of it and think, man, that is some sweet show business action right there. I want to sign up for that. But it suited me, and I enjoyed the job.
Well, let me say, it ain't all about size. In my opinion, it's about heart. And you got to know what excuse my French, but know what the hell you're doing. And I don't know anybody that done any better than Snowbird than you. Now, there was a gentleman, I guess. How many Snowbirds were before you? Couldn't have been many.
There have been some other people along the way. I served by far the longest tenure. I mean, there were a couple of people before me, a couple of which I knew. But, the character launched in 1983.
Okay, yeah.
As a puppet, and you saw all the commercials with Bill Hall, some of which are probably up on YouTube and various other sites, so you can kind of relive your childhood when you watch them.
Jackie says...
I won't say this. Let me let you... Snowbird, Bill Hall, one of the best comedy teams of all time. I like it as much as any Three Stooges, Lauren Hardy, Abbott Costello, any of the fat, skinny ones. You two were the best, and it made me so happy when the weather was bad because I knew, I'm going to get to see them two have some fun on TV. So even an old man who didn't concern whether he went to school or not, I enjoyed it and just as much as any child. Of course, children love you too. You stepping out the gate.
True.
The first thing, when they see you, they get thinking, hey, no school, so that'll endear you to a child's heart right there.
Well, it wasn't just kids. I mean, when I took over in 1993, so this has literally been half my life. This is the job I've done since I was a couple of years out of school, and it has literally been half of my life. It's been a treat. It has been a privilege. It has been my great good fortune to have this job. And you would think after so many years of doing it that you, at some point, get up in the morning and go, oh, I got to go drive an hour and a half to County XYZ and spend a couple hours sweating in a hot gymnasium, entertaining several hundred kids.
And it gets hot in there, too.
And it wasn't. It was a very hot job. Any gig indoors with air conditioning was always, a welcome thing compared to, say, a county fair in August when it's 100 degrees plus the heat index. So.
And you out there in that
indoor
events,
events,
big costume, trying to describe it to people who may not know. The Snowbird sometimes was a little puppet, but sometimes, now, you was in the whole suit. He's a big life-size.
The puppet commercials, of course, they're certainly wonderful commercials, and people have fond memories of them, but the puppet by nature, of course, is limiting in what you can do with it. You can shoot a commercial with it, but you can't take him to a county fair or put him in a Christmas parade or take him to you needed something that was mobile and interactive and full-size and huggable and everything else. So, my job was being out in public. I was the public ambassador for the station. I was out there shaking hands and kissing babies and getting hugs and getting pictures taken all over Middle Tennessee, about 300 public appearances a year, mostly at elementary schools and preschools and Head Start programs, things like that.
A lot of reading programs helping children read, if I remember correctly.
Absolutely,
is that correct?
Yeah, because you do the voice. You perform the character. You are
exactly.
Snowbird.
It's not somebody in a costume. It's you. You're embodying all of it, doing all of it. Yeah.
Exactly. It's not like a ficus plant in the a ficus tree in the corner. I wasn't just a prop. It's the difference between wearing a costume and portraying a character.
Well, I'm gonna say right now, some intern at WSMV sure ain't gonna cut it. I'm gonna say it right now.
Even if they fit, and even if they are happy to draw the short straw and end up, climbing into a smelly costume, even though it's not part of their official job description, even if they do that, even if they were, excited by the prospect, it's not for everyone. If you're claustrophobic, put your hand down. If you don't like being incredibly sweaty and hot and maybe kind of nauseous, by the end of it because you're so overheated and flushed and everything, maybe you should not step forward and volunteer. It is certainly not a job for everyone. It's probably not a job for most people. I mean, some of the funniest stories I've ever heard are when I'm visiting libraries or public schools, and I'll have a teacher or a librarian or someone pull me aside and say, I know exactly what you're going through. This one time, we had the Scholastic Book Fair at our school, and the company, of course, sent all the books that you're going to try and sell that week to raise money for the school, but they also sent the Clifford the Big Red Dog suit. And oh my goodness, I couldn't convince anyone else to wear it, so I had to wear it for 2 hours. And it was the longest 2 hours of my life. All it was kids kicking me in the shin and yanking my tail and pulling my ears. It was, and no matter what the story is or what the character is, whether they got to be the Easter Bunny, whatever it is they got roped into, the story always ends the same way, and I'll never do that again.
Never do it again.
I mean, it always wraps up with basically the same kind of thing where it's a lot of first dates and no second dates. You tricked me once, and I got a taste of it, and I'm like, nope, that's not for me. And I can't tell you how many people will tell me those stories, kind of commiserating and saying, God bless you, you're out here in the middle of a field, at a county fair in August, and it's 100 degrees plus the heat index, and here you are being happy and hugging everybody and posing for pictures and not complaining and not passing out, and good on you. People were grateful that I made the effort. So much of our viewing area is smaller towns, small communities.
Right.
You got to drive an hour and a half, 2 hours sometimes to get out to some of the edges of our viewing area. And the people that invited you were just so grateful you said yes, that you made the effort. You know, I would go home with plates and baskets full of homemade goodies and stuff because the teachers were just so happy that you took time out to come see their children. You know, you could be anywhere in Middle Tennessee. You could be at a big giant school with hundreds and hundreds of people, but you came to the small elementary school and you made their day. And I would have teachers come up to me at events as me. You know, they would recognize you. Say, you came to my school last year, and I got to tell you, after you left, the kids didn't stop talking about you for a week.
Well, yeah.
I had parents come up to me and say the same thing. You know, I picked my kid up from school one day after school, and as soon as he got in the car, he talked for about a half hour nonstop, and all he talked about was the penguin that read books and shook his tail feathers and said funny things.
Yeah. No, with Snowbird, you're a celebrity back there. See, I can see kids kicking and yanking and hurting old Clifford the dog, but Snowbird, you're going to treat with respect.
Snowbird's
you love Snowbird.
on TV.
Yeah.
If you live in Plevna or
right.
Flintville or Elora and Snowbird comes through, that's the biggest celebrity some of those kids ever going to get to see.
Well, there weren't even the kids. The parents and grandparents were just as excited. You know, today is very different from when I started. I'm old enough and have done this long enough. I remember used to going to public events and people say, "Oh, I wish I'd known you were going to be here. I would have brought my camera." Nobody says that anymore. Everyone's got something in their pocket to take a picture or a video right there, ready to go. But people used to say that to me. And, I mean, I started doing this long ago before Channel 4 had a website, before we had email, before you could just click and, send an email from your school and say, "Hey, can you come visit me?" It used to be a call the station, make a phone call, pass the message along, call them back and forth, It used to be a very analog kind of thing, and now technology has advanced, and then success has bred success. I didn't start out doing 300 gigs a year, but doing what I was doing, it kind of slowly built, and teachers have a great network where if you're the teacher at Eastside Elementary and Snowbird comes to visit, you can bet the teachers over at Westside Elementary are going to hear about it and go, "Where's our visit?"
We need Snowbird too, yeah.
School. And then, and it just kind of builds on itself to where I was doing this many events, and clearly the public loved it because they kept wanting more of it, more than I could actually do, actually. There are budget limitations to how many gigs I could do. I did 300 gigs a year. I could have done 350 if I had the money to do it.
You mentioned that adults and grandparents, love Snowbird, which, of course, I do, and I know plenty of them that do. Did you ever do any adult functions as well, like a bachelor party or something?
I would. Every once in a while, I'd get invited to go visit a senior center.
Oh, yeah.
They would have special guests come and visit the senior citizens, and they were just delightful. They were absolutely delightful because these are men and women in their 70s, maybe their 80s. They're grandparents. They've lived in Middle Tennessee most of their life, probably. They've watched a lot of TV.
They've seen a lot of Snowbird,
if they were loyal to Channel 4, they've watched a lot of Channel 4. And they love Bill Hall, and they love Dan Miller, and they love Dimitri. And, they go back and have a great history with this station. And the station has a great history. I mean, it's an old station. It's been around a long time. It has a great historical record for the kind of things it's broadcast. It has a great, respect for journalistic traditions.
Well, not anymore as far as I'm concerned. That's just me, though.
We still want them to we want people to say, "Hey, Channel 4, bring back the heart of Snowbird."
You don't have anything bad to say about them. I understand that, but
I don't, and I have spent the last 3 or 4 days obviously upset with my own situation, upset that other people have lost their job, but the only really heartening thing about it is that once everything kind of broke loose Thursday and the word was out, I have just been overwhelmed by emails, by personal phone calls. I mean, some teachers and principals and chambers of commerce had personal cell phone ways to reach me as well, and would call me and say, "I just heard the news. Please tell me this is a terrible rumor and it's not true. Please tell me that you're still going to come to my county fair. Please tell me you're coming to our Christmas parade. Please tell me, whatever the event was." Right. Like I said, I have a lot of things nailed down between now and next spring already in my book, and the station has canceled all of those things. That's part of, like I said, the meeting I was at. I was asking, "Well, what are you going to do with the character? What are you going to do about the events?" And they said, "Don't worry about that. You don't. As a matter of fact, don't contact those people. We're going to handle it." And I said, "Well, how can you handle it if you're not going to have someone playing the character, you're just going to have someone wearing the suit, basically?" And they said, "Well, we'll probably have to cancel most of those." And I thought, this has no upside to me. I just can't imagine. Just as even if I wasn't in the middle of this, if I was a third-party person looking at this from the outside, I'd say, please don't make me be the person that has the job of making all those phone calls and telling school, after preschool, after Head Start, after library, after fair, after Christmas parade, after chamber, all these people that the thing that you thought was happening isn't happening anymore.
Well, let's say that despite our best efforts, and that WSMV doesn't come to their senses, could you show up to these places anyway, maybe as another penguin?
Right, not Barney, it's Blarney, right? The less purple dinosaur kind of thing.
Well, look at the San Diego chicken.
Well, that was litigation. That was in the case of the San Diego chicken, there was litigation, and I think the argument was that he had created the character, even though he was working for them. He had invested enough of his own ideas and everything that he had some ownership over the intellectual property, and I think he finally got to play a chicken, on his own, separate from the sports team, but he couldn't call it the San Diego chicken. Obviously, he called it the famous chicken.
The famous chicken. You can be famous penguin.
It was semantics. Well, that's not something I want to entertain because I don't see that benefits anyone because
okay, how about this?
I'd be a weather penguin,
yes,
not representing Channel 4 and not it would seem kind of phony to me.
What if Channel 4
I'm not mad at Channel 4 and I don't want to do anything that doesn't interest me. Being a bluer version of Kermit the Frog and not quite as green so as to avoid legalities, that just doesn't sit well with me.
Let me tell you what made me mad when and I know you're not mad at Channel 4, but when it first hit that Channel 4 fired Snowbird, and it's like, whoa, no, Snowbird's still around. They said the next day when they started getting complaints, even though we know that the heart of Snowbird, Stephen Good, had been ripped out of Snowbird, and what was left was just this sort of shambling zombie.
I think any other kind
of Snowbird.
Yes.
Any other bird that you would be able to do, penguin bird or any Arctic, whatever kind of, I think you could bring that. And I know it can't be Snowbird, but just if I was Channel 2 or Channel 5, I'd be thinking about because on, let's say Snowbird comes on, whoever the new one is comes on and says there's no school day, then you on Channel 5 come on as another bird, whatever, we can figure out names, say yes there is school today.
It's gonna snow. No, it ain't. That's what you say.
Fake news. Yeah.
I appreciate your passion. I appreciate your passionate argument of this.
We would rather you be back as Snowbird. Trust me, I do. We're just looking for. We're grabbing it. You're
grasping at straws.
That's what we're doing.
I tell you, the public is rarely wrong, and as I said, even Coca-Cola can make a misstep, and we all remember the new Coke disaster, where they thought we've got this product that everyone loves. What we ought to do is get rid of it and put out something else instead. And people took a few sips of it and said, this new Coke tastes a lot like Pepsi. And if we wanted Pepsi, we'd drink that. But we want Coke, and please bring back what we loved, and we're giving you money to buy. And what did the company? I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of ego in being an executive and being someone who makes decisions. I'm sure there's a lot of that. That was not in my wheelhouse. I wanted to be a creative person and just entertain people. But there's got to be a lot of pushback against admitting that you made a horrible mistake. But even Coca-Cola admitted that they had misstepped and said, you know what? By popular demand, we heard you loud and clear. We got Coke Classic coming out there. So
we're going to fix it, yeah.
Happy.
Well, hopefully WSMV's listening to this because that's one, excuse my language again, hell of a blunder. And if anybody can fix it.
They are hearing people. They are hearing people on their website. People are calling. People are emailing.
They're going to hear from me, yes, for sure.
Facebook page and Twitter accounts. People have been very kind about how much they enjoyed the work that I put into it.
Yes, sir.
I wasn't just wearing a suit. I was performing a character, and I was going out and really interacting with people in a very specific way. I told the story. I think I had it on my own Facebook page, and people can read if they want to. But I said, there's a world of difference between a kid running up to you and hugging you, and that's fine. You get a high five and maybe take a picture. And what I would do, I would look at the kid, and if a kid was running up and maybe had, kids. A lot of kids now have, their school, their elementary school has T-shirts that have the logo and the tigers and the mascot. It's so-and-so elementary school. And if I saw something like that, I could respond to it as they ran up to shake my hand and say, "Hey, you go to Westside Elementary School. I was just there last month. Did you see my program?" I can't tell you the expression, how it changes on their face.
They know Snowbird remembers. Yeah, they're
Snowbird remembers. Snowbird, and then they go, "Oh gosh, yeah, you were so funny, Snowbird. What was your favorite part of the show? When you shook your tail feathers, or when you asked the kid, you asked him a question that was silly, or you told a joke, or whatever it was, or that part in the book where such and such happened in the story. They remembered. They were completely dialed into whatever I was doing, and it makes a difference to listen to kids. It's not enough to just pat them on the head or give them a hug. They want to tell you something. They have ideas of their own. They have thoughts and things they want to express.
Children are smarter than...
ask them something, and they can talk back to you and tell you what's on their mind and what they liked and everything. That makes a world of difference. When they walk away, it wasn't just, I hugged this fuzzy thing and wasn't that great. Snowbird talked to me. Snowbird asked me a question. Snowbird listened to what I had to say to him. And they will never forget that. And I know that because I talked to parents who I hugged when they were kids and came to their school, or they saw me at a fair or whatever, and now they're in their 20s or their 30s maybe even. I'm not doing the math in my head, but 20s, early 30s maybe. And they still remember that. They said, I met you at the library when I was in kindergarten. Now I'm, X number of years old now, and I still remember that.
Well, yeah.
Or I still have a Polaroid of that, and my mom's got it, up on the wall. So it makes a difference. It makes a lifelong difference. Things that I was doing as that character, whether it was as simple as asking them a question or talking to them about something, whatever it may be. I was encouraging them to read. Whatever it was, it mattered and it had value. I thought it had value, and in the last 3 or 4 days, I can tell you all the comments and lovely things people have posted on my page, on various social media, and all over the place. I think the public valued it too. I know they did. It's not even a question. I know the public valued it because they've said so in a multitude of ways, and it's very gratifying. I know the station is listening. I take that back. I know the station hears what these people are saying. My hope is that they're listening and they really take it to heart and realize that I do a lot more good out there in the world than maybe they were even aware of.
Well, I hope we're going to be able to have you back on here in a few weeks with you fully, right back where you're supposed to be.
In that suit.
Doing what you're shaking your tail feathers, whatever it is, all of it. You do it so well. And we all love you, and we feel for you. And if there's anything we can do to get you back in that outfit, I know you're sweating in there, but we sure do appreciate it. A lot of people do.
I need my slim, youthful figure, That's
Jackie,
based in my own juices. I'm what you might call a self-basting bird.
Oh, do it.
They did the voice. Listen to that. There he is, talking to Snowbird.
It's like only playing a few seconds of a song before the royalty people start knocking on your door.
Yeah,
I don't want a slight case of litigation coming over anyone. You know what I mean?
Well, who else is going to do that voice? What are they going to do? Get a Casio sampling keyboard?
It really beats me. That's the difference between just wearing a costume and being a character. It's part of the deal. I think it's part and parcel with it, and it has been for so long that I don't know how you step back from that. Once you've established a character that talks and interacts and jokes and sings and whatever he does, to dial that back so far and make it so much less than it was, I don't see the upside. I don't see the monetary upside. I don't see the community upside. I don't see the benefit for anyone. And I'm not just talking about my own personal employment status. I mean the communities that we serve. And that's what TV stations are supposed to do.
Yeah.
I'm not a lawyer. I don't have a journalism degree or anything, but I think part of the FCC licensing requirements is that when you get a license to run a TV station or a radio station for that matter, that you serve the public trust. And I felt like I was doing good things in our viewing area. I was making the world a little better than I found it.
Well, you were.
I wasn't doing anything earth shattering, but to the people I visited and the communities I got to go to, they liked it. They thought it had value, and they told me so. They keep telling me so. I'm sure when I get off here, the interview with you, I'll go back to my computer screen and I'll have a half dozen more people that I need to respond to in some way.
Well, TV stations, they need to do more than just report on car wrecks and sell advertising. They need to.
Well, that is a very good point, and I wish I knew the person's name. It's been many years ago, and at this point my brain has turned to applesauce on some things that I wish I had better memories of. But one time I was in a small town, and they'd had a run of bad luck where the town square catches fire, and there's a terrible car wreck. And
was that here in Murfreesboro?
Was that in Hazard County?
It wasn't in Murfreesboro, but it's what it could be a lot of towns. Where,
I was just curious. Yeah.
You get
it's not happening
kind
now.
A run of bad luck, and it's not just our station, but any station. If you only visit a community when something's on fire, when there's an accident, when someone has been murdered, when someone has gone missing.
Yeah.
When you only roll into town during the bad times and only show a community at its worst, at its lowest point, when things are really, really sad or really frightening or whatever, then I wonder, and this person said this to me in so many words, they said, if you only roll into town when things are going bad, then at some point when we see your news van roll up or whatever, the car or whatever it is.
Here's Snowbird, what's on fire? Yeah.
What happened now? Who died?
Yeah.
You get this negative connotation, and it's like, well, they only come see us when something horrible's happened. And I think I was a good balancing act to that, When Snowbird rolled into town, nothing bad was happening.
Right.
I was going to a library to have some fun and read to some kids and encourage them to develop good reading habits. And same way with elementary schools, they would have me there to kick off the book fair or the Dr. Seuss's birthday celebration. They have something in February every year in March called Read Across America, where schools everywhere are trying to get guest readers to come in, whether it's the police chief or the fire chief or a doctor or any kind of person in the community that kids might look up to and say, wow, that's kind of cool that he does that. Take some time, come in and read some books to the kids, encourage them to have good reading habits. And I didn't always do that. That wasn't something that was happening. The station wasn't sending the bird out to do that when I took over. But some schools I'd visit, and I started listening to teachers, and I would hear them talk about their jobs. I'd ask them questions. I'm pretty curious about things. And what I took away from a lot of my conversations is that teachers spend about the first month of the new school year every year having to reteach the concepts that kids have lost, the skills they've lost over the summer. When they stop reading, they stop doing math, whatever it is, if their brains are not really engaged in stuff, they kind of backslide. And so the poor teachers spend the first month or so of the new school year trying to make up all the ground they lost from the previous year, because over the summer they stopped doing things. And so, public libraries try to kind of step in and fill that gap and start doing summer reading programs to have some kind of programming going on to get the kids off their couch, away from Nintendo or whatever, get them in the library, sit down, whether it's somebody from the zoo bringing some animals or a magician or some kind of science experiments, whatever they're doing to attract the kids to get them in the building. Because you know what? You can't get books into kids' hands if you don't get them in the door. That's the great trick of the library. Is like you got to get them in the building first before you can get some kind of book in their hand that interests them. And so I started doing a lot of library visits in the summer, and it kept the bird busy, kept him out in the public during the summer months when maybe he otherwise wouldn't be. And I took that lesson from the teachers and thought, well, that's something that may keep the kids' brains engaged, so maybe they're not having to do so much of that the following year. So they can, start tackling new things faster and not, kind of waste so much time going over old ground. So, it wasn't, a huge life-changing event, but I took that and thought, that's something I could do that might help a little bit. Sometimes it's nibbling around the edges, but you feel like you're making a little bit of a difference. And I was very proud of that. I'm very proud of the work I've done. And I hope that the powers that be hear the value that it has. And maybe they weren't aware of it before. Cause you know how corporate America works. Sometimes decisions are made so many steps away from the vantage point where they could see the effects of it. The front lines of what happens if I do this. Well, unintended consequences. I had no idea by doing this that
Right.
all this would happen. And so I think there's some of that to it. Like I don't say anything bad about the station or the company.
I do, and I know I shouldn't, but I do. I'm mad in hell, and if I wanted to, and I know you would never say to do this. I'm not saying you would, because I know you're a better man than I am. You're a good fella. But if I wanted to call someone at SMV and just cuss them.
No, don't cuss him. You're trying to get him his
Well,
job.
that's what I meant.
What you should do, folks,
insult.
people, if you're listening to this, what you should do is call, and as Stephen has just reminded you about all the things that he has done in this community and to help kids and to read and to make people forget about the fires. That if anybody listening to this who loves Snowbird, or who has kids who love Snowbird, or has seen kids who love Snowbird, get on Twitter, get on Facebook, call up WSMV, don't cuss them. How much are you talking about cussing them?
Talk sternly. Talk sternly. I mean anger, cussing. I don't use bad language. Try not to, but I'm mad. When I'm mad.
You should sing. When I told him about there's holes all lit down here in this bunker.
Well, I was upset. I got mad when I heard it.
Kicking holes and punching holes.
Well,
it's easy to guys riled up, isn't it? It's easy to get you riled up.
Nowadays,
You get a bee in your bonnet.
Nowadays it is.
Yeah, I can't open my eyes without getting mad about something these days. So this is just.
So,
like
folks, get on there, help Stephen out, help Snowbird out. They may still be a Snowbird, but to me, it's a no bird. The heart of Snowbird is on the phone with us right now.
I see what you did there.
Thank you.
There have been some hashtags circulating of fake bird and, not my Snowbird and some rather clever hashtags that I've seen. And I don't understand all the Tweety birds and all the Insta chat and the Snapgrams, whatever the kids are doing nowadays. I don't understand all of it necessarily all the time, but
you sound like Jackie
I know it must have an impact.
Yeah, get on there, let people know, and Stephen, we appreciate you being on here with us. Could you do me a favor before we go? I know you don't want to get no lawsuit, but just I don't know when he'll have the chance again. Could you tell Jackie that you love him in Snowbird's voice?
Oh, now bless your heart. You don't have to do that. Don't you go back.
Jackie, you know that I love you. I love all my fans. You guys are so cool.
Well, you made my day right there. I tell you what, there's that Snowbird on the phone with me, talking to us on here. Stephen Good, we can't thank you enough. Before we let you go, I want to let people know this who don't know. Again, the people who are from Middle Tennessee area know this backward and forward. But Bill Hall, in my opinion, was the greatest weatherman ever on TV. And you mentioned you had an opportunity to work with him. Could you tell us a great Bill Hall story? You got one on hand.
A great Bill Hall story. Well, I tell you, the great thing about Bill is that if you invited him to an event that involved food, you had a much better chance of getting him to go. Even if it was a fishing event, if the fish were going to be cooked later, that might put him over the edge to go. He liked fishing, but if he liked fishing and eating the fish later, that was even better. But I tell you, some of the best memories I have are events like Lynchburg, Tennessee, home of the Jack Daniels distillery.
Oh, yeah.
Every October has a great barbecue cook-off, and I got to tell you, you're rolling to town, you better have your windows down because oh my goodness, it smelled fantastic. You didn't want to leave. You just thought, okay, let me just unbuckle my belt and eat myself stupid for 2 days because it was amazing. And you had teams from all over the country coming and cooking and smoking and saucing and whatever else they had. I'm not a cook. I don't know all the lingo. But anyway, it was 2 days of the most delicious smell. And on one of the days, they would invite some local celebrities. And I would go down with him sometimes and shake hands and kiss babies because the adults loved to meet Bill. And, of course, the kids loved to meet me, so we kind of had all the demographics covered, right?
There you
Old
go.
and young and everywhere in between. But I got to tell you, it was nothing better to watch than to see all the people just flock to Bill. Just felt like they knew him because they did. That's the great thing about local television, especially people that stick around for 20, 30,
Yeah.
Or Rudy Kalis, our sports guy, 43 years. He's about to retire in November.
Yep.
People that you invited into your living room every night. You turned the TV around on the table to face the dinner table so you could eat dinner and watch these people. You invited them into your house, and they felt like an extended, member of your family.
Yes, sir.
For
Yep.
years and years and years. And it was always gratifying to me to watch people go up to Bill and just love him, just love him, and like I said earlier, they were just so grateful that you would make the effort to come out to their little towns, whatever it is they were putting on, whether it was the spaghetti supper to raise money for the volunteer fire department, or the chili cook-off to pay for the new gymnasium bleachers or at the school, whatever it was.
He was there to eat, yeah.
He was there to eat, sure. He was there to judge barbecue, sure, and it was nice to see him, rub shoulders with people. The crosstown rivals at Channel 5. Maybe you had Chris Clark from Channel 5 there next to him with a bib on, eating himself silly on barbecue. And maybe, Bob Mueller or someone from Channel 2 was over there also representing their station.
It's hard to eat barbecue with that mustache.
Well, then none of them can compare.
Messy. Yeah, it has its own zip code, I think. But
none of those fellas, and bless their hearts, good for them. But none of them compare to Bill Hall. And if you're Bill Hall and you walk in there and you got Snowbird next to you, forget it. I don't care who else from whatever channel.
Paul Newman is good and Robert Redford is good, but when they're together, it's like it's a league of their own. Not
it's
the
like
movie.
Martin and Lewis. You want to bring it back to some recent news. I mean, there's something about people are good by themselves, and then you put it together, and it's more than the sum of the parts.
Yeah,
Snowbird is a good character. Snowbird's a good character, coming or going. Snowbird was a great idea. You can't kill a good idea. Snowbird was a great idea, and the people that launched it way back when in the early 80s they had something. They had something, and it's so good that they haven't been able to kill it for 30-something years. They haven't been able to, and it kind of comes and goes, and peaks and valleys, and more popular and less popular. But it's endured, and I'd like to think that some of my hard work helped in the longevity. I'd like to think that some of the consistency I brought to it helped in the longevity.
You the longest running
kill the golden goose.
Snowbird.
I never want to do that.
No, you weren't. No, don't you ever think that? Because there were people I know that did before you, but they're like the Jack Parr or the Steve Allen. You're the Johnny Carson. Let me tell you right now. That's what you
I
of
even
Snowbird.
take the David Letterman. I'd like to think that some of my sarcasm, which I don't use on the kids. I try not to be sarcastic around the kids, but I'd like to think that some sarcasm that people that know me and hear sometimes, I think some of that came from Letterman. He was a great broadcaster.
I like Snowbird better than David Letterman myself, but to each his own, I guess. I thought you did a fine job.
TV is just like anything else. It can be used for good or not for good. And I've said this, in some of the things I've posted and written on my own page, but it's worth repeating. My TV holy trinity was Jim Henson, who created the Muppets, of course. Fred Rogers, who made Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, and Bob Keeshan, who was Captain Kangaroo.
Kangaroo, yeah.
I mean, that's all you need right there. I mean, stop turning the dial. You got three of those guys on. That's all you need. And
you can put one more. You can put four up there if you want, and that could be Snowbird as far as I'm concerned. You put you right along in there with them.
If I just had a sliver of that, and I don't mean the money, because they were successful and they did well for themselves certainly and created
that Sesame Street money, that's a lot of money right there, yeah.
Well, they're not having bake sales to pay the rent, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But I never did this to make the money. It's like being a teacher. No one gets in the teaching profession because they think they're going to get rich doing it. They do it because they're good at the job, they love doing it, and they think it has value. And that's why I've done this job for as long as I did. And I looked at those men, and I looked at how they interacted with kids, and it was some very deep things they were doing kind of behind the scenes and the thought behind it, but it was a lot of simple things too, where they didn't talk down to kids, they didn't assume kids were dumb, they listened to kids, they validated kids. I mean, some of the greatest things Mr. Rogers did was talking about things that scared you.
Yeah.
And it was okay to be scared, it was okay to be confused by things, it was okay to ask questions about things, it was okay not to know sometimes. Sometimes you just, I don't know why that, it was really profound things they did in very simple ways. And I don't mean simple because kids were dumb and couldn't get it. It was simple because it didn't need to be more complicated than that. And I just marveled at the kind of things they did that were entertaining as all get out. I mean, dropping ping pong balls on the bunny and the moose. I'd practically pee my pants. I just thought that was the funniest thing ever. I could just spit Fruit Loops out my nose every time I saw it. It's the funniest thing ever. But there was also a lot more going on than that. There was a lot of subtext going on there in that I think the kids got, and I think it benefited. I think kids were better because of it. I think childhood was better because of it. I didn't duplicate that. I didn't approach that as far as the level of success they had. But in my own little neck of the woods, in my own little slice of Middle Tennessee here, I tried to take what they were doing and try to emulate that the best I could through this character. And I think it did pretty good. I think I did pretty good.
You sure did.
I hope other people will agree with that and speak out if they want more of it.
Well, that we do, and we will keep on telling WSMV. And I'm telling you, if WSMV don't want to right the wrongs, Channel 2, Channel 5, here's an opportunity. And I know you're gonna be Snowbird always in your heart, but I'm telling you, there's other birds that go up against that penguin. That's all I'm saying. Now I ain't gonna put ideas in anybody's head, but.
Are you angling to be my agent?
Well, no, I don't know.
Standard 10%? Is that what you want? Your 10%?
No. I just want. I'll tell you what I want. I won't be able to turn on TV and see a bird being played by Stephen Good. That's what I want to see. Preferably Snowbird.
Well, from your lips to God's ears, right? I hope that.
Or Channel 4's ears
at least. Hears it.
Yeah. Well, Stephen, we can't thank you enough. It's been a thrill. Thanks for sharing the stories. And again, we hope this is a temporary situation. We feel for you. And I hope, like I said, next week we can have you back on and you're fully reinstated and back on there telling kids it's too cold to go to school or too snowy.
I'd like nothing better. Now, I should ask, there's one question I have about this. This is a paying gig, right? I get paid by the hour just like Charles Dickens got paid by the word, right?
Hang up,
There's
Jackie.
going to be a check in the mail, right?
Hang up.
How do I
Are
hang
you
it up?
losing me?
Hang
Is the
up.
connection
How do you
getting
hang
bad?
it up? I don't know how you what button do I hit?
Yeah, we're good.
Where's
Well, that was Stephen Good, everybody.
Thank you.
Oh, shit, he's calling back.
Uh-oh. Well, just don't answer it.